Today we're going to look at CRQs. You may recognize these from your common assessments in 8th grade. They are basically short answer questions about documents. So in a CRQ, you will be asked to do 3 things, which you can see here: explaining the historic or geographic circumstances surrounding a topic, evaluating a source for its point of view, audience, or purpose, and then identifying and explaining a similarity or difference, cause, effect, or turning point that connects the documents. So part 1, we're looking at context, okay? The first thing you might be able to do is explain geographic context. You will need to identify a geographic feature that is connected to the topic in the source, and then explain how that feature affected the topic of what's in the source. So for example, what we see here is a map of the Byzantine Empire and Kievan Rus. We know that the Byzantine Empire affected Russia. So the question is, what is the geographic context of this interaction between the Byzantine Empire and Russia? Your answer would name something specific, like the Black Sea. So the Byzantine Empire and Russia were able to trade over the Black Sea. You can also explain historical context. That's where you have to include something that is outside information and explain how it connects to the document that you're looking at. Okay, so if we look at this source, you can see that this is a cathedral in Kiev, which is Russia. It's an Orthodox Christian cathedral. So if you had to explain the historical context of this structure, you would say that the Russians learned about Christianity from the Byzantine Empire. That is outside of this document and explains how it connects. So once they converted, they built structures like this. In the second document, you will be explaining sourcing. So you may be asked to explain the purpose of a document. You want to think about PI. Is that document meant to persuade, inform, or entertain you? You may be asked about the audience, which is who is the author writing the document for? Or you may be asked about point of view. What is the author's opinion on the topic? So when we look at this source, you can answer all 3 questions about this source. The Greeks led us to the buildings where they worshiped their God, and we knew not whether we were in heaven or on earth. For on earth there is no such splendor or such beauty, and we are at a loss how to describe it. We only know that God dwells there among men, and we cannot forget that beauty. So if we think about the purpose, the audience, or the point of view, most of that information will be found here in the source line. The purpose was to report to the Tsar of Russia on Byzantine religious practices, which means the audience was the Tsar, and the point of view of this author appears to be very positive about Byzantine religion. We know they use words like beauty, splendor. We are at a loss how to describe it. The third task is to explain the relationship between the documents. So the first thing you might be asked to do is to explain cause and effect. How does one document cause the other? With 2 of the documents that we've looked at, you can see that the interaction between the Byzantines seen in document 1 would cause them to learn about each other's religion, which we saw in document 2. Another relationship you might see is identifying a turning point that connects both documents. If we look at the same documents again, you will see that the turning point that is related to both of these would be the conversion of the Russian people to Eastern Orthodox Christianity. We can then look at a third relationship between them, which is how are the ideas in the document similar or different? The last 2 documents don't quite work for this model, so I used the cathedral instead. So a similarity we see is that both of these sources have to do with the conversion of Russia to Eastern Orthodox Christianity.